This is for the nerds, this is for the brainiacs, this what we deserve. Go ahead and play it back, you ain't gonna touch me, you not gonna do nothing, you are not above me, I bet you wish you was me, I know it, I know.
What is poppin', everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Only Friends podcast. And I'm here with my only friends. The Yinzes are in the building.
What's up?
Hold on.
Yeah,
I just... What?
I'm not getting Connie.
What?
Oh,
no.
I hear Conrad.
Do you?
Yeah,
we got him.
Do you guys hear Conrad? Tell me in the chat if you hear Conrad.
Let's hope so.
Sometimes you don't want to hear him, but you hear him.
I fucking hate that kid. What you got? Oh, yeah, obviously Landon's here.
Yeah.
What you got for us, Burke? What are you saying?
I just received a new message from Milena on Tinder, and I have to address this real fast. So
Who's Milena?
if you, we don't know yet, Brian, but possibly the mother of my children.
Sick fucking
and my
flex,
future
man. What kind of... That was worse than a CSA.
It's the seat, man. It's the fucking seat.
Oh, Christ.
Wow.
Who is in charge of your lighting today?
I thought it was good.
Damn
We
it.
thought it was good.
Wait, you can turn that light on right there.
Yeah, that light needs to be on, and whatever's making you hot. Oh, it's the window. Wow, I look good today. I've been
Yeah, because you're busy fucking messaging Milena or whatever the fuck her name is.
Yeah, she spells it with an E-I-N-A,
I'm happy for
not
you.
A-I-N-A.
Did you send her a link to the podcast?
No. That's like third date material, man. You can't have them doing.
Can I see a picture of her?
Well, this is not Vegas girl. This is
She's tourist approved.
yeah. She actually looks like Lamanna's smasher pass photo.
That's no wonder you like her.
Wow, so it's, it's a Nikki Glaser impersonator.
I'm never going to live this down.
From LA and verified, has working out as our only interest. This is my kind of lady.
Is it?
Good luck, Berkey. Good luck
You've
in
been
your endeavors.
slacking.
Wow.
What?
Yo,
What are you
the
talking
kid
about?
is here to call you out every time.
When did I miss a day?
When I wasn't here.
That was weeks ago, man. I was making money then. Now I'm back to the gym going fucking broke.
Oh, no.
It's Dermot season.
There's no balance.
Nothing like a good Dermot
No
and
fucking
cry.
balance.
What the fuck is... Oh,
Dermot Kennedy and
Gotcha.
cry.
I
Yeah.
understand.
I don't cry. I wish I could.
This whines
I think
a
my
lot.
tear ducts were like taken away from me somewhere in my early teens.
It happens. I want to give a big thanks to our sponsors over at WPT Global, the online home of the WPT World Poker Tour. As you know, they're just giving it away. So yesterday they posted a tweet basically saying, what's Jamin's favorite hand? You tell us, we'll give you a $5.50 ticket. There were 60 correct responses to this, and they didn't cap it.
Oh,
So they're giving out $33,000 in tickets.
Wow.
Just fucking giving it away.
That's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. Let's go. I'm excited for all these people that got these $5.50 tickets, got a chance to win themselves into the WPT championship. How do you feel about that, Burke?
Well, I'm excited for everybody who got tickets. Good luck. Godspeed. I took yesterday off because I got some bad advice and was grinding online apps. I followed through with that bad advice again today. The last 2 days, I've gone to bed at dawn. Yesterday, I was like, okay. I woke up actually feeling okay for the podcast. I woke up like 11, feeling kind of okay. And I was like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to power through. We're going to go to bed early, like 9 o'clock, and we're going to sleep through the night. Great plan.
Yeah, sounds great.
Great fucking plan. And I stuck to it. I got home from the podcast and I was like, I'm not as tired as I thought I would be. I'm going to go to the gym. And I didn't think I was going to make it yesterday. I had one of the best workouts of my fucking month. Okay, we're crushing it.
It's only the 8th.
Sorry, Scouty. Sorry, girl. I scared you. So come home, I eat, and I'm like, I'm tired. I'm in a sauna, and I'm going to crash. So I hit the sauna, hit the cold pool, hit the sauna again, hit the cold pool, took a shower. 8:30. I'm asleep. Actually, like 7:45, actually.
Man, you missed all the action last night. Anyway.
No, I didn't, because I woke up at fucking 10:30 thinking it was 4 a.m. I heard like the coffee maker going. I'm like, oh no, I'm on Conrad time. Fuck me. And I look and it's 10:30 p.m. and I'm wide awake.
Oh no.
Like, God damn it. So luckily, or maybe unluckily, Manifest has its 4th and final season out. So I fired that up. Jumped back on the app, lost another 5 buy-ins.
Oh no.
I don't understand. Now here we are. Here we fucking are.
Here we fucking
So
are.
I missed. My whole point of that was I missed the global satellite yesterday because I fell asleep. But I made up for it by losing $25,000 playing in most likely a rigged game. I made 11 sets yesterday and lost 5 buy-ins. You know how hard that is to do? I haven't made 11 sets all fucking year.
I made $25,060 more than you yesterday.
You made $60.
Yeah.
The tortoise with the sling. Speaking of the tortoise, it's your day again.
It
You got
is
2
my-
days a year.
Wow, it is my day again.
It is your day.
would
What
you look at
happened
that?
in the politics world
Wow.
yesterday?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy. Did anybody pay attention at all to politics or the election?
I don't know if you heard my story, but I fell
I know-
asleep at
Yeah, I
7:45.
understand. Yeah, you. I was talking to the rest of the group.
I was texting you, like, giving you an
Landon's
update.
not even old enough to vote yet.
You didn't respond to me.
Landon should have voted. He should. Did you vote, Landon?
No.
You ever have any desire to vote?
No.
You will.
Probably. When
You're too young. You're
when
too
my
young.
heart dies.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was kind of wild yesterday. There was supposed to be a huge red wave come through, and the Republicans were supposed to like smash it. And it looks like that didn't happen. It was more of a ripple than a wave.
Okay.
Yeah. So as of now, it looks like the Democrats are probably going to hold the Senate, and the Republicans are probably going to take the House. So, but they were supposed to take the House by a large margin, and now they're just probably going to squeak it out.
Okay.
Get the majority there, and the Senate is still coming down to a few different states. So if you look at the prediction markets right now, that's how they have it. They have that about 85% Republicans take the House, 80% Senate takes control. You can go to Predict It and bet on this stuff.
Question.
Yes.
Does it matter if the House, like the Republicans win the House by a large or small margin, or no?
Well, it does when there's like pretty close votes and there's some like moderate, members of the House who might vote one way, might vote the other way. So if you have a larger majority, then it matters because if you have a larger majority, then also you can say like, hey, the people want this because the people put more of us in here, so they want our agenda to pass, right? So it's always better to have more, but when it comes to the House, you just need a simple majority to pass anything in the House.
Like theoretically, from if someone does get elected from one side or another and their side has the majority, the idea would be that they would vote with their side, as if they didn't, it would be likely that they wouldn't get reelected as.
Yeah, a lot of times, right. Like I said, it depends on where you're at, right? So if you're in a pretty moderate district, then they're going to want you to vote moderately, right? But if you're in a super heavy blue district or super heavy red district, then they're going to expect you to vote that way, like on more progressive issues or more right-leaning issues.
And votes are like, which state or who voted for what.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. All that's recorded,
Cool.
so you can tell.
Nice.
So then in the Senate, it's going to be super, super close again.
I can't wait till Andy hears you say that.
Why?
Because you said Senate.
In the Senate.
It's fine. Continue.
I said Senate.
Yeah.
Did I?
It's fine.
In the Senate.
It's completely fine.
Yep.
I hate that I even called it out.
I know.
But I just know Andy's at home
Yeah, he's at
listening,
home, just like-
taking notes.
Yeah. He's writing them down. Yep. Next time I see him.
For those of you guys
What's
who
the Senate?
Yeah, for those of you guys who haven't been following along, our good friend Andy, he used to be one of the managers here as well. Incredibly anal retentive, incredibly overbearing
When it comes to grammar. And pronunciations.
And-
He'll be here next
Pronunciations.
Thursday.
I asked him to come
he
in,
will.
actually.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
will that be the week of the
Stop. Just
16th
stop.
or the week
Just
of the
stop.
23rd? Is this tomorrow? What are we dealing with here? So that's the other long running gag. Continue about the Senate.
So in the Senate, it looks like it's going to come down to 4 different races. We have Nevada, Actually, only 3 at this point because Wisconsin was called for the Republicans. So they have 49 seats right now. The Democrats have 48. You need 51 to have a majority, or 50 if you hold the presidency, because the vice president can break the tie. So the Democrats need 2 out of the remaining 3 that are left, which is Georgia between Warnock and Herschel Walker. And
Jesus Christ.
Yes, and it's going to a runoff. So in Georgia,
They predicted this, right?
Right, they were pretty sure because it was super close. And there was actually a third party, Libertarian Party candidate that was in there. So he took like 2% of the vote. And if you don't get 50% of the vote, it goes to a runoff.
I wouldn't want to run against Herschel Walker.
No, well, you know what? It's going to be close.
It's the NFL.
Right.
So,
Right.
okay.
So that one's going to go to a runoff, which will be on December 6th, which if the Democrats
wasn't there just
don't
like a
win,
massive smear campaign against Herschel Walker?
So yeah,
Like a domestic abuse thing?
No, it wasn't a smear campaign.
Not a smear campaign, but like
What
details
happened,
had come out.
So what happened was he is super. So abortion obviously was a huge issue this election cycle, and he took a hard stance against abortion. I'm pro-life. And then all this stuff came out where he was, paying some ladies to get abortions. They had the receipts, everything.
Wow.
So like. Yeah. So
Yeah,
he was,
2022, the era of just getting dunked on.
Yeah. So it looks like Mark Kelly is going to hold on in Arizona, which would give the Democrats a number. It's still, it's not 100%, but he's probably going to win. And then it's going to come down to, here we are in Nevada.
Swing state, baby.
Yes, swing state. It is very, very swingy, very, very purple. And it looks like Catherine Cortez Masto and Adam Laxalt are in pretty much a dead heat. He right now has the lead. If you see,
Which one's the Dem?
CCM, Catherine Cortez Masto. So John Ralston is a journalist in Vegas, and he knows all the ins and outs of politics.
Lombardo works out at my gym.
Does he really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, he's a decent dude.
Joe Lombardo does?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He's really good friends with Rob.
I didn't. No, that makes sense. But yeah, so as you see here, they said if there is 100,000 mail-in ballots left in Clark County, which would make sense according to the turnout, the Dems would need 2-1 margin to win. That's what they have so far. So if it holds that way, it looks like Cortez Masto will pull it out in the end. We don't know. It's
I have to tell you,
super close.
as somebody who doesn't follow local politics at all, the Republicans do a great job with their marketing campaigns. Because I didn't know that she was Dem, but I know that she's the goddamn devil.
They're both the devil if you watch the.
I didn't. I didn't even know the other guy's name.
Really?
I've definitely heard Adam Laxalt once before.
maybe. But I would have mistaken him for one of the lawyers.
The last 2 months we were just bombarded with commercials.
I don't pay attention though, so I only see it as one-off. I would have easily mistaken him as one of the lawyers that gets your traffic ticket written down to
100%
to a parking violation.
He sounds like
where Catherine Cortez Masto, I'm pretty certain that she performed an exorcist on her daughter, or exorcism.
Yeah,
she is the goddamn devil.
That's the nature of campaigns now. Just there's so much money that gets flooded in.
We should do this with other training sites.
This is what Doug did to you.
This is what Doug did to you.
Yeah,
What do you mean?
You're right.
You're fucking
Should.
genius.
You're actually right.
So pretty much, that's what it's going to come down to, and it might, just like in 2020, if the Democrats hold here in Nevada and hold in Arizona, it's going to come down to the runoff next month in Georgia.
This is like this. I'm sorry. Go on.
No. Well, I was going to say that was a fantastic civics lesson, but the real burning question that everybody cares about is what happened to Dr. Oz?
Dr. Oz got fucked up.
Who's Dr. Oz?
You don't remember that daytime show? Okay, so first of all, for anybody who wants any sort of backstory on Dr. Oz, if you are even somewhat knowledgeable about things like diet, nutrition, fitness, whatever, you would understand that if this man is actually a practicing doctor, we're all fucked. He showed so many bullshitty like ointments and treatments and supplements.
Yeah, he's
and
kind of like a quack in that way.
Honestly, like that's doing a disservice to quacks.
Right.
John Oliver did a great piece on like just how fucking awful his show actually was when it came to facts, which no shock that he ended up running.
Yeah. So this kind of shows how the politics work in Pennsylvania, and because John Fetterman pretty much outperformed across the entire state, right? Like he didn't turn
For reference, he's the Dem.
He's the Democrat, right?
Yep.
He didn't turn red counties blue, but he did better than Biden did, that time around. So he got enough votes in the red districts and then obviously he did really well in Pittsburgh, in Harrisburg, in Philadelphia.
Right.
And but like it was kind of like he's such a yinzer, right? He's a yinzer through and through. He's like a blue collar guy, and that's kind of like what Pennsylvania is.
Yeah.
Right. And then Dr. Oz comes in. He's an elitist, and he's a carpetbagger, and he just like. Do you know what a carpetbagger is?
I was just about to ask you, what's a
I was
carpetbagger?
gonna say, so
If it has any parallel to a carpet muncher.
I knew you were going to say that.
I know what it is, but I'm here for the jokes.
Yes. No, essentially, it's like someone who, from outside of a district or a state, comes in just to run, right?
Right.
So
He's actually from New Jersey.
He's actually from New Jersey, but he technically moved to Pennsylvania just to run there. Pennsylvanians don't like outsiders coming in and telling them what to do.
We don't even like Philadelphians.
It was funny because Paul Begala on CNN last night said that he's like, yeah, Pittsburghers hate Philadelphians and Philadelphians hate Pittsburghers, right? And the people in the rural countries hate the people in the cities. He's like, but one thing they can agree on, all Pennsylvanians hate New Jersey.
100%. That's absolute truth. Nobody, like even Philadelphia wants to blow Jersey up so they can get ashore.
Right.
That's
so,
pretty great.
I mean, so like, I think the big takeaways of the whole election is that abortion was a bigger issue than people thought, because people knew it was going to be a big issue, but it really held the Republicans from having the huge night that they were supposed to have, because once Roe v. Wade got overturned and people were looking at like, I don't want my rights to be taken away. If you look at all the polls, usually, pro-life pro-choice is preferred throughout the country, about 2-1. So that was reflected, and also all of Trump's candidates, all his quote unquote election deniers that were running for governor, they like all lost except like one might win.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably good for Obama. On the Republican side,
Obama.
Oh, Biden.
I actually,
It's good for Obama too. But for Biden,
stumbled upon a Ben Shapiro clip yesterday. I try to expose
the
myself.
red wedding clip.
No. But I try to expose myself
clip,
to both
not
sides,
tweet.
and I loathe him, so I try to listen to him. Like when I actually hate somebody to the point where like I speak out loud listening to them, I try to listen to them more.
I think there's better people on the right that you could listen to.
Well, this isn't politically driven.
Right.
I loathe him as a human being.
Yes.
So that's how people feel about me. Happy to help.
I spite listen to him, but I do actually find him to be quite intellectual. I just think he's a pea brain the way he applies his intellect. But he was basically saying that when the Dems rerun in 24, putting Biden out there would actually be a better choice, even if he has dementia, than putting Kamala Harris out there.
Oh, for sure.
And
she's very, very disliked.
Yeah, and that like if given the opportunity, they would probably try to draw Michelle Obama out of retirement.
Yeah, I don't.
But
She
seems
has
very
no
improbable.
desire to run. This after tonight, this really puts Biden as probably the favorite to get reelected. The good thing for Republicans was the biggest thing probably is Ron DeSantis. He crushed it, right? He crushed it. Mark Rubio crushed it. It's a foregone conclusion now. Like Florida was a purple state and trending red. It is solid red right now. It is a red state. DeSantis just absolutely smashed. I think he won by like 20 points, which they thought it was going to be close, which is probably feeding his ego like, hey, I'm going to run. He was already, teasing it, and people were saying he's going to run. And then is Trump going to run? Trump's supposed to have a big announcement in like a week. So everyone thinks he's going to say, I'm running, right? But now I'm sure fucking DeSantis is like, thinking, God damn, like I have to run because I have all the momentum now. So it's going to be really interesting to see DeSantis going up against Trump. Trump already has a nickname for him. He calls him Ron DeSanctimonious. So it should be interesting.
That sounds interesting. I'm pretty sure that announcement's going to be about Trump's OnlyFans, though.
So are you telling me,
I
Brian,
would
that
sign
you're
up for
actually
that.
going to have another day tomorrow to report us on the events that happened tonight?
No, months from now.
Yeah.
Probably nothing's going to happen tonight. We might get, I don't know, probably not. I won't be here tomorrow anyways. I'm going to New York.
So it won't be your day.
Our boy
Right.
LeMan is going to New York for the next couple days. I think he'll be back Monday.
Chat's begging
yeah.
for pickleball chat right now.
No, they're not. It's fucking been
No,
Jeb
they're
and
not. They love
trolling
it.
your ass.
Begging. Honestly, like I actually enjoy these conversations, but I can see because I'm on the fringe, right? Like I enjoy the game aspect of politics,
Same.
and I enjoy kind of understanding projections and models and things of that nature, as well as like
That's what's so fascinating
what,
to me.
yeah, as well as like
Right.
what could potentially change, even though nothing ever does. But being that I'm fringe enough on the outside looking in, I can also see like immediately where this would tune people out.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, no,
like just
yeah,
a whole
for
bunch
sure.
of people just like on either side. It's like fuck this shit.
Yeah, I just think it's like fascinating how it's going to work and like how the actual politics of it. Right.
mean, but look at
I
his
like
passion.
the policy too. Right.
You
right.
got to
I
give this man
understand.
2 days
Right.
a year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a huge difference between politics and policy, right? And just like, I can see you being more interested in the politics and how campaigns are run and how people,
Yeah, I think like what
power
Nate Silver
and that
does
kind
to
of
me
stuff.
is like fascinating.
Yeah, it's super dope.
So you're politically adjacent.
Yeah, that's a good way. I'm about as political as I am religious.
Okay. Talking about politics, let's get to the politics that I like. Jeff Saturday is the new head coach of the Colts. This man has never coached the fucking Pee Wee football team.
Nothing. Never coached a day in his life.
So
Just becomes the head coach of an NFL team.
So RG3 came out with this tweet the other day. It says, lots of tiptoeing around the Jeff Saturday hiring for the Colts. Jeff was a blast to work with at ESPN, but it doesn't change the fact it's a head-scratching slap in the face to every coach on that staff type of decision. Stephen A. Smith will be the coach of the Nets next. Stephen A. Smith
Jesus Christ.
will be the coach of the Nets next. Like, where does this guy come from?
I mean,
how does this happen?
I don't think it's that big of a deal. The season's lost. They're clearly not going to promote from within. They're just finding a placeholder between now and then, and there are plenty of guys.
I don't know, man. The coach or the owner came out acting like he was ecstatic about him being.
Yeah, he might be. He might have
and
fell
think
into
that,
something like he just. He's in the Ring of Honor. He was one of their most glorified players throughout the years, even though, kind of silently on the line or whatever. Like, I don't think Vrabel did much coaching prior to becoming the head coach of the Titans.
I mean, if he succeeds, he's just gonna have to change his name to Jeff Sunday. So.
That's not a dad joke.
That's a bad joke.
Nah, that's actually a good
Might
one.
be a sad joke.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think Vrabel was
holding that
maybe a
one in for a
linebacker
while.
coach
Yeah, I
for a
think so.
season or two before being promoted, but like, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a deal to not have coaching experience. I think the big deal here is that he's coming in mid-season and has like no familiarity with the playbook or how the offense is being
It
run.
just seems like a slap in the face to every other coach on that
But
roster.
they're clearly not going to hire within. Who cares?
Yeah, but you usually have an interim coach.
Yeah,
right?
You give somebody a
But who
shot
cares?
within your roster, though.
yeah.
Why? He's not planning on hiring within. He's going to clean house at the end of the season. That's clearly what this is demonstrating.
Yeah, I guess so.
You're
And
bringing in a new regime, but you don't have a glorified hire mid-season here,
that might be true.
right? So Jeff Saturday is either going to be a placeholder, or he's going to be the start of the new regime if he can turn this around in any sort of capacity. The irony is that if he does turn it around, it'll almost certainly be at the hands of all the other coaches on staff.
Yeah, of
because they're
course.
actually familiar with the system.
It actually seems like a nice tank plan.
Well, I don't think they need to put a plan in place to tank. They're doing a great job of it as is. They could have just left Frank right there and
but
gotten
like,
that accomplished.
The thing is that like players usually don't tank, right? Like the players won't tank.
They can't. They'll get hurt.
Yeah,
Like I don't think you
right.
can show up and play, half
80%.
speed.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, you could drop a few passes,
Sure,
here and
sure,
there,
but
like stuff like that. But like, they're not going to do that. Like, players are competitive and they want to win, no matter how bad they are. They're not going to actively go out there and try to lose.
I mean,
right?
there are certain
but,
stipulations.
The upper management might.
There's like a stipulation in contracts for player bonuses where they're more so incentivized to play good for that regard, let alone care about the other situations that happen. It's not like who knows how much someone's going to care or try or not try. But from a personal standpoint, there's definitely incentive to perform.
Yeah. Do that.
Yep. I think it's much to do about nothing. Like it's a really bad team that may have made a bad hire. Who
But the only reason why I'm starting to come around is because you said that they're cleaning house at the end of the year, so that makes a lot of sense. So it really doesn't.
I mean,
matter
I'm
about-
speculating,
Yeah,
obviously,
no, of
but like,
course.
there's no fucking shot that they hire within at the end of the season. Like everybody on that staff is going to be gone unless Saturday vouches for them.
Right.
It's so funny, not to bring it back to the Steelers, but it's like we never go through anything like this, right? It's like we've had, like, since the 60s, we've had 3 coaches.
And Tomlin's going to find a way to fucking go above 500 again this year when they go 7-2 down the goddamn stretch.
I'm sorry.
You heard it here
I'm
first.
sorry. No. I watched the fucking Ravens play the other day.
Yeah, they're going to lose to the Ravens once. And they're going to lose a trap game
They
once.
play them twice. don't
They do play them twice, but they're going to fucking pull one off. But this is the exchange, Conrad. They lose the goddamn trap game to the Colts.
When did Chuck Noll become coach? It was in the 60s.
68, I think.
Something like that. So since the 1960s,
68 or 69.
3 coaches.
Yeah.
Are you
Isn't
serious?
that crazy?
Yeah.
Noel, he coached all the way into the 90s.
Yep.
And then it was it 90s? Right?
Cowher took over, I think, in like
92 maybe?
1991.
91
No,
or
92, they
something
were
like
already in
that.
the AFC Championship.
Yeah, maybe.
Uh,
So it was like, so till the 90s.
Yeah, early
And then Cowher coached until Tomlin took over, and Tomlin's been there for.
And Cowher retired way too fucking early.
Yeah, he was young when he retired. Yeah.
Way too early. He had another good 10 years in him.
Yeah, he could be coaching now for sure.
So Cowher was there for about a decade, I think. 10
no, yeah,
10 to 12 years,
10 to 12
maybe?
years, something like that. Yeah,
3 Super Bowl appearances. No, 2.
And
Won one, lost one.
yeah.
And Tomlin's been there for how long now?
Tomlin's been there
14 years. I
14
think,
years.
yeah.
Damn.
He's the second most tenured coach of all time.
Mm-hmm.
3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins and a loss.
Two Super Bowl appearances.
Wait.
Right, Cardinals and then Packers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because the one before that was Cowher.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, right. Cowher went twice.
Yeah,
he
Cowher-
went 1-1.
Yeah, lost to
Tomlin
Dallas,
went 2
beat,
or 1 and
beat the Seahawks.
1 and 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they both went 1-1.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right.
And then
Interesting.
Chuck Noll just went 4-0.
It's just wild to see something like that in this day and age of you see so many coaches.
I think that's why I gravitated to Penn State also.
because it was
just
just
one coach
Joe Paterno
ever.
forever.
Yeah. Just literally one coach
Mm-hmm.
the entirety of the history of the sport.
Yeah.
How has Mike Tomlin's just overall record as a head coach seasonally been? Like around
Seasonally very
slightly
good.
over
Playoffs,
500, right?
Playoffs very poor. No, way over 500.
over
Like he's very good at
500.
being over 500.
He's never had a below 500 season
Right. That's what I was
in
going to
14
yeah.
years.
Wow.
Um,
That's. I mean,
but
that's pretty strong.
they've had years where they missed the playoffs after going like 13-3 the year prior.
Right.
So he's had this like
They've had
hot and
these
cold
letdown
thing.
years.
Yeah, where and maybe it's just the parody of the NFL.
Yeah, probably.
But like it happened with Cowher too. The season after going to the Super Bowl, the Steelers missed the playoffs consistently. The last 4 times, I think. Which is a very strange thing to do. And then there was another time where the Steelers went like 15-1 and the next season were 8-8.
Yeah.
It's just like wild. It doesn't make a lot of sense. But it's, some of it's scheduling, some of it's injuries, some of it's just the straight parody.
I mean,
10-6, 12-4, 9-7, 12-4, 12-4, 8-8, 11.
Yeah, so 2011
Holy shit. This guy's fucking
2011 they won the Super Bowl. 2012 they go 8-8 and miss the playoffs.
yeah, I mean, look
2013 they go
at the
8-8.
Rams. Look at the Rams and the Bucks. They're like in that same
Yeah.
type of situation.
Yeah, but the Steelers were a perennial powerhouse if it were not for Brady during the 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go to the Super Bowl a couple more times, probably maybe win.
I think a
another one or
lot
two.
more probably.
Yeah.
There was a lot of impact for the Patriots, like
How many, we
taking
lost,
away the number 1 seed a bunch of times
Yep.
in scenarios where the Steelers, were a 12 or 13 win team.
Yeah.
I don't think the
That's
Steelers were
so
the 1
shitty.
seed. I don't think they were the 1. I think they were the 1 seed one time during Tom Brady's era, and they went 15-1. And I'm not even positive they were the 1 seed that season.
Yeah, they
We
were.
can go back to the graphic. The graphic had it.
Mm.
The Mike Tomlin graphic had the placements there, like first AFC North,
Yeah, in the North.
No, that's
not
just
in the
the North.
AFC.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
in
just our
general.
division. Yeah.
Okay, and I think I must be wrong about the 15-1 season. It doesn't look like
13 and
It was
That
like
was
3.
15 and 1
13-3.
season was Cower still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was Ben's first.
So
year.
yeah, so they went 13-3 was the best season. And they did it once. They were a 12-win team 4 or 5 times. I don't think they were the 1 seed ever
Yeah.
in the AFC.
Yeah,
Because
that
when they
makes
went
sense,
13-3, I think the Chiefs
They
were.
got that was back then. There were 2 buys, so they would get the buy a lot.
They would get the bye a lot, but they would
second
always
bye.
have to go through New
have
England.
to go to right.
Yeah.
Or Manning.
The only time
Mm-hmm.
the Steelers went to the Super Bowl was when New England lost prior.
Yep. Yeah.
Never beat them to go to the
Oh,
Super
really?
Bowl.
What do you mean? No.
Manning would come through Pittsburgh. That's who the Steelers beat to go to the Super Bowl.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat the. Remember? Oh, well, no, they beat them in the.
They beat 'em in the divisional round.
Yeah, they beat them in the divisional.
And that
round.
was in
That was just the tougher game.
that was in that was when
Yeah, the
Cowher-
Steelers came out of the 6th
Yeah.
seed that year.
Mhm. Yeah,
They were on
yeah.
the road the entire
Yeah,
playoffs.
they won three road playoff games. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
But that was definitely the tougher game. I can't remember who the AFC Championship was that
Denver.
season. Oh, yeah.
It was Denver. I was in Atlantic City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
watching it.
Denver.
Yeah.
Who was their quarterback?
John Elway.
Wait, what?
It was
It
not
was, the
John
end, it was the
Elway.
end of the Elway
It
regime.
was not Elway. No fucking way.
2012.
God, who was it?
Um,
I don't know.
their quarterback was no one good.
Wow.
Somebody dusty.
Yeah.
Sounds like it. Sounds like
Doesn't
it.
matter.
All right.
Doesn't matter.
We'll get into the shits for today. We're stealing a question from Pads on Twitter. Because,
Yeah.
I love the Bluebird app, and I love stealing questions from there. So that's what we're going to do.
Where we get our content from.
Yep, you know it. So Pads put a question on Twitter. It said,
It was
What's-
Peyton Manning. Sorry.
what's the best poker
No,
advice
Peyton Manning was still in Indy.
you've
just-
ever received that stuck with you forever? So I kind of wanted to go around the table and see what you guys got for me here. Let's start with young Landy.
For poker advice? Yeah. So I was looking at this Peyton Manning thing. It did just say 2012, but
Sorry, we were talking about 2006.
mm,
It was their first Super Bowl. Ben's
yeah,
first Super Bowl.
I was like 7, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
telling you, man, it was John Elway.
yeah. Poker advice that I've personally received.
Yeah, what stuck with you? Let me know.
Because I look back at how I am here now after, call it 3.5 to 4 years, when I left school and when I was 19. And I don't think I went about playing poker as a profession the right way, but I think it was necessary. Where when I left school and my mom gave me 6 months to figure out poker, I did nothing else but play and send hands to my friend Steven, who was coaching me at the time. And from there, I didn't have any other life. I didn't go outside. I didn't have friends around me because they're all in college. I didn't go to the gym or exercise because I cared about poker. I didn't have that well of the overall standard of living because I didn't eat very much or eat well at all. So I spent a lot of time just focusing on poker itself, and I wouldn't recommend for anyone to do it. At the same time, I think it was a necessary part of my development in my career because I spent so much time learning, so much time devoted to the game, where there was nothing else that was on my mind, and I didn't have any other sources of validation for myself, really. Advice-wise, coming out of that, realizing that poker isn't the be-all, end-all of my existence was a pretty big piece of advice that I ended up getting from a bunch of different sources throughout the years, and sort of recently actually internalized that. Because I remember when I was in detox and we went on a retreat to Atlanta, Nick asked me if I thought that my life would change if I got to 2K now, back when I was playing 2.5 online. And I was like, yeah, of course it would. I want to be great. I want to be the best poker player in the world. I want to focus on getting the high stakes, and that's the highest stakes that I could have played at the time. And I thought once I hit that milestone that my life was going to be different, my life was going to be great, and I'd have everything I wanted. But then when you get there, you realize that that's just part of a goal, less so the overarching journey, where it didn't just end at playing 2K. It didn't just end at playing 1020, where it comes to now I'm in this place of playing tournaments, trying to be someone in like from an industry standpoint, this, that, and whatever. So from an advice standpoint, I would say to find other sources of validation and things that you enjoy and care about that isn't just poker, but allow poker to be your driving force when you actually do decide to play.
Yeah.
You jumped the gun. You started giving your own advice. That was later, man. What the fuck, bro?
Yeah.
I was just joking.
That was very serious.
Guapo,
I care about it.
what you got for us, baby?
For me, it wasn't necessarily just one like piece of advice. It was a book I read. It was called "Treat Your Poker Like a Business" by
Leather ass.
yeah.
That book was great. I used to
Dusty Schmidt.
R.I.P.
And it was just about being like really regimented and putting in the hours and bankroll management. I probably went a little extreme on the bankroll management thing, but
You gotta have 100 buy-ins, man. You just gotta.
For those of you that you don't know, Guapo doesn't move up in stakes unless he has 1,000 buy-ins.
It's hard to go broke that way, right?
Respect
right,
to
Bob?
that, man.
It's hard
True,
to go
true.
broke that way.
Do you have any
Indeed.
extra copies of this book laying around?
I do.
I need
I have
to
a
read
digital copy somewhere.
It. All right, sweet. What you got for us, Burke?
Oh man.
Should I go first before Berkey does?
All right, shoot. What you got, Lamana?
No, it's gonna,
Yeah, no, go.
I mean, it's kind of like Guapo. Like, I feel like there's one thing that stood out. It's a multitude of things. It's like, treating the poker as a business. One, you actually recommended that book to me, the same book, which is, it was a
how
great
ironic.
book. Yeah, right? Now here we are, running a business.
Yeah. I think for you, I was trying to get you to read it so that you started taking risks.
Maybe. Took a
It's so
risk.
strange that it had the opposite effect on me.
Yeah. It's kind of funny.
The tortoise moves at his own pace.
Yeah, but like I think like the balance thing, like that's a big one, right? It's like don't just be like completely focused on poker for everything. You want to have a life balance, right? So that kind of keeps you from getting burned out. I do like, it's kind of funny, but like it's kind of like game selecting or whatever, but they say like you don't have to be the best poker player in the world, you just have to be the best poker player at the table. Right?
Everyone sucks.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is that like if you're always playing with people that are worse than you, you'll probably do pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that and like having like supplemental income is kind of pretty important. Like as far like I enjoy poker now, and I feel like I do better at it when I know that that's not my only source of income. That there's other ways to like. It's not the end all be all. Helps you make better decisions at the table and not have to like worry about like, oh, if I make this call, I can't, pay my cell phone bill next, that kind of thing.
Very true, very true. What do you got for us, Burke? What's going on?
I feel very slighted in this conversation.
None of these motherfuckers mentioned you? Is that why?
No, not that regard. No, I don't recall getting any fucking advice along the way. Maybe a heads up to not lend a certain person money here and there. I think of the unsolicited advice I've gotten, it's all been awful. I'm sure you'll remember this. Maybe not, but it's etched into my mind. Do you remember the larger unkempt man who he wore like glasses? He looked a little bit like Freddie, but not exactly. Played it at Silver Creek with us back in the 1-1 days. I don't know if you remember this. I'll never forget this interaction. Honestly, I don't even know what this guy looks like. I'm describing him, but like he's a blur in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Don't remember his name, don't remember anything about him. I just remember he won and he was a sick nit, and you and I were sitting with him in between us. And I remember him like looking at us after a hand or something along those lines and was just like, if you fold, you can't lose.
This stuck with the man.
Like,
I vaguely do remember.
Like he was effectively basically telling us to not fall victim to sunken cost fallacy, but he was a sick nit. So what he was really trying to say, like what was actually being projected and what I think he actually meant was, just have patience, boys, and you'll get aces.
Yeah.
And like, I hated this guy so bad. I hated that advice. I hated
That
everything
stuck
about
with me my entire life.
right.
You guys both took it differently. Where Brian started folding and you never folded.
Lamanna subconsciously has thrown that advice into my face like 1,000 times. Like I'm on a downswing. He's like, you play too many hands. It's like, fuck you.
You did play too many hands. Probably still do.
But yeah, I mean, like the real takeaway there is that folding is 0 EV. But that clearly wasn't what this man was intending. Yeah, I mean, like I didn't grow up in this game with mentors or people to look to for
We
advice.
kind of had to figure it out ourselves, like in that era, right?
Yeah, and I think
We had our friend base to bounce
right. I
things
think
off of,
I think even
they were just learning too.
well, I think I specifically am more difficult with this than maybe you or others in the sense that I'm a do your own research kind of person, right? Like I'm a trial by fire. I like to figure out problems, and I really like to my best method of learning is taking an unvarnished idea, something that's like very young and like there isn't a clear answer to it, and just picking a side and just fucking going off on why that side is correct. No, like having a strong opposition to it, right?
Yeah.
So like Brent and I, if for example, like I knew that he had a certain opinion of something, I might just like take the other side and be incredibly opinionated on it just to have that
Back and
battle,
forth, yeah.
right? Because like even though it might be abrasive in the moment, it was kind of the best way to get to the root of things and to like get ideas fleshed out without actually having to go and lose money at the table.
What you're saying is you chose violence on purpose.
That's why Lamanna was laughing.
Well, yeah, because like it wasn't like now you didn't have a guide. Like even if we don't look at solvers as answers, they're at least a guide where we can have a starting point, right?
Yeah.
But back then it was just like, Brent might be winning a bunch and I might be losing a bunch, and we may be approaching the same problem differently. And if I want to know like how much of his winning is due to skill and how much of my losing is due to lack of discipline or a mistake or whatever, then we have to get to the crux of what is different between us, right? And it's just like
Your attitude.
right. Your fucking attitude. But it's like maybe he's doing like a lot of bluff catching and it's working out in his favor, and maybe I'm doing a lot of bluffing and it's not working out in my favor. So what needs to be discussed now is bluff frequencies, right? And the only way to do that is to back then, especially like 2006, 2007, whatever, is to take a spot on the river where it's just like, it's clear nuts or air.
Yeah.
And we just then him take the side of they're never bluffing, and me take him take the side of they're bluffing too much, and me take the side of they're never bluffing, and we just fight.
Very productive. Very productive.
The real interesting truth of the matter of that is it's probably always somewhere in the middle.
Right.
But in order to get to that point, you have to take the
You can't get to the middle. So the solver serves as a mediator now. It allows you to see a middle ground and it allows you to arrive at one.
And
but
a coping mechanism.
Right. But back then you had to operate in the black and the white and the extremes because there was no middle ground really formulated. We're trying to formulate it through this discussion.
There
right?
was no indifference in the sense of you
Landon,
can call, can't fold.
You don't understand. This is what it was like before the internet. Right? It's the same thing, right? We used to just argue about things, and there was no conclusion because we couldn't just go look it up, right? And it's the same thing now. Like now, it's like, okay, well, I think this is right, and I think this is right, and you plug it into the solver, and the solver kind of tells you, where it lies. But like that,
You know what scares me about this?
What?
Knowing Berkey, these arguments had to go on for weeks.
Weeks. He's been doing this his whole life though. Like I remember he used to say, like poor John. He's like, John would just make an argument and you would just literally take the other side.
He was so bad at arguing.
See if you could get him on your side, knowing that you were wrong.
He was so bad at arguing. I would purposefully take the stance of I would gaslight the fuck out of him.
You're a bad
He was
friend.
just so bad.
You're a bad friend.
Because it was like something that might be like somewhat debatable, right? Like
You use this man as a punching bag.
No.
it
I
wasn't
used
like that.
him. I used him as a sparring partner. He made me stronger.
It sounds like you just won every argument you guys had, but you knew you were going to win them all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even if he was wrong.
Yeah, but imagine what that did for me moving forward.
From an ego standpoint?
No. Just because in order to win an argument from the losing side, you have to be pretty strong at debate.
Okay, so I see. You might
Or
even agree
gaslighting.
with, you might even agree with him in some cases, but you
No, I
took
agree
the
with them
other,
in a lot of cases. Or what would actually happen would be, and granted, I'm painting myself in a very negative light, but I was very young. We're talking about teenagers. What would happen is we would start a very honest argument where both of us liked our side.
Yeah.
And then he might say something that proved a point that I would recognize immediately was correct. And now it was just all about skirting around that point to get back on track of how my side could theoretically be correct.
Right, so you were actually arguing in bad faith.
Yes.
It was
yes,
the
I did
goalpost
that a lot.
mover.
Right. That's why I understand bad faith arguments so much now, is because I did
Man.
so much of it as a kid.
I remember when we would have our arguments at the house, the amount of goalpost moving that I would do, that you would get so fed up.
I saw younger me in you a lot, and it made a lot of sense. You're coming from a very competitive dynamic with triplets, and I'm sure.
Fuck, I was bad at arguing.
Yeah. And it was easy for me to recognize because this was me at 17.
It's because you don't want to lose, but the issue is there's not a winner or a loser. There's just objective truth.
Well, it's just that mentality that you're speaking to is very sophomoric, right? It's a young mentality. And I don't even mean a young adult.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you shedding the skin of your teenage years.
Yeah.
Right. And we're so insecure and vulnerable at that age that we find these things to prop ourselves up. And oftentimes it's going to be our physical prowess, our mental prowess, our knowledge, whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And to Brian's point, pre-internet, that was a big way that I curated value for myself.
Yeah.
Was knowing a lot of things or knowing a little bit of stuff about a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
And oftentimes that little bit of stuff would be slightly incorrect one way or another. If you're speaking to an expert on that subject, they would just immediately shut it down.
Yeah.
But because we didn't have the internet, I could paint myself as knowing a lot more than I did based off just knowing a little bit.
And then if that didn't work out, someone would hit you with, okay, then fucking fight me. Is how the argument goes.
That would happen.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you actually have the argument where you're both on both sides, and when you're kids, you're kids.
But yeah, it's as you mature into an adult and you realize that information is so much more paramount than being correct, or sorry, than being right. Because there's a difference between right and correct, right?
Yeah.
Information becomes so much more paramount and so much more powerful to you as the individual than being on the right side of the argument. That I think you, or at least speaking from my own personal experience, you become heavily invested now in proper tactics of good faith debate, right? You are for me, I got very much engulfed by logical fallacies, and being a computer scientist also helped with this because when you're building algorithms
with if-then statements,
right? The last thing you want to do is fall into fallacy type thinking, where you start building if-then statements to just take you into a no man's land. So it's very critical that you begin to understand how logic tables are created and what can skew that, what emotional projections can take you out of the logical framework.
Yeah, I would do this to you, and not just you, but Nick, Chewy, Nate, you name it. Every time there'd be a hand discussion, every time there'd be something along those lines, I would take the stance of being so grounded in my solver knowledge to think that was the answer in some cases.
Well, it's sharp. It's
bad faith.
I don't think it was in bad faith, not intentionally. I think that your arguments were curated in bad faith because the intention was to win.
Yeah, I wanted to win.
Right, but the reason why I say it's sharp is because it's sharp and it's not sharp, right? There's two things occurring here. So one, you are in a situation where you've curated a peer group that on average is 10 years your senior.
Yeah.
And has 20 years experience greater than you.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you're trying to be seen as a peer rather than a prodigy or rather than a student, right?
Yeah.
You want to be on their level.
Yeah.
And you feel like you've mitigated that process through technology.
Yeah.
So you want to lead with that, and you want to expose how intelligent you are, right? But from from those who have been in it that also have the same exposure, all we see is somebody Googling an answer and reading it to us, right? So where this all falls apart is that leading with ego and attempting to feel valuable to a group of mentors, let's call it, because like at that time anyway, I don't think you were at a peer level with that group. So the problem with trying to be their equal rather than trying to be their student is that you lose the greater lesson. Yeah. Right. And what ends up happening is either you're able to gaslight them into bending, and now everybody loses because, you know, speaking from my own perspective, like it's not that hard to feel Dunning-Kruger, or sorry, not Dunning-Kruger, to feel, oh God, I've lost it. But basically when you feel like you're inept in spite of being,
imposter syndrome?
Yeah, imposter syndrome. It's not that hard to get steered into imposter syndrome as you're on the back end of a long career because of how fast the landscape is moving. So it's very easy for that doubt to creep in and just be like, oh man, this kid's young and on the scene and like paying. Maybe he's on to, like, I'm a fraud.
No, it's just the privilege of the solver era, which we know now, right? Having the ability to have a tool that can advance you so far in such a short amount of time if you give it the attention that in some cases I feel like it deserves. Where there's a reason why you're seeing the age of people playing and winning high rollers like decreasing. There's a lot of really sharp, young, talented online kids that are in their young to mid 20s that are just going to be amazing from an online perspective, or especially even like the live.
There's a lot of reasons that's happening. So one, it's a big time cost to get good the way that they get good. Two, it's a big time cost to attempt to put in all the live volume for very mediocre edges. Yeah. So what ends up happening is that the old guard who doesn't want to sink the time in to catch up has all the money. Yeah. And the young guard who's willing to exchange time for money is now basically doing a handshake deal of like, okay, I'll get really good and I'll go execute and you fund it. Right. Yeah. And we're all just kind of like, this is great for everybody.
Yeah. And I didn't take that as responsibly or appropriately as I should have when that was on the table a couple years ago. And you and I have had these conversations many times, but it's finally internalized now as to seeing the path to actually taking the steps that prove that to be true. Yeah. When it comes to putting in time, volume, playing something and following a path to not necessarily completion, but with the intent and purpose of scaling it to playing X amount of MTTs, to playing higher stakes live, or this, that, whatever you name it. Whereas the advice that you and I have talked about for a long time sort of now has hit me of being more purposeful with the actions that I do take. Yeah. Which is worth a lot, because finding that out at 23 versus 33 is massive.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's just like speaking to what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't know if I'm jealous or I feel bad for you guys that you're in situations where you're kind of forced into
growing up.
No. You're kind of forced into mentorships or mentoreeships, I guess. Is that even a word? Anyway,
don't look at me and ask.
You're kind of
menteeships.
Yeah, you're kind of forced into being the student. Whereas like for us, it was all self-discovery, and you know, part of me is just like, wow, how nice would it have fucking been for somebody to, and like even being in the position now to give advice, it feels off, right? Because like so much of the most valuable aspects of growing up in the game, as well as just like growing up in life, is just sink or swim, man. Like those sink or swim moments were so career defining and character defining for me that it's like, I don't know that I could be successful now if I would have just been kind of given a Daniel Negreanu to pal around with and travel the world with for a decade.
Well, you didn't swim every time you had a sink or swim situation.
That's
right?
kind of the point.
Well, what happened? What did you do when you sank?
I failed.
But what did that mean?
You get back on your feet and you figure it out.
And you just like fell forward as much as you possibly can, right? So there were so many important failures that I had, like so many more important failures compared to successes.
Yeah.
Go on.
I think that like, no, don't get me wrong. It depends on how we're measuring success, right? Because I don't have the wealth that I could have if a lot of early shot takes or risks that I undertook would have been successful.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't have the wealth that I could have had if I were more conservative in a bunch of spots or willing to, toe the gray line a little bit more in a bunch of other spots. Like basically, there's a million reasons to not accumulate wealth, and there are a select few that you can point to that say like, had this gone one way or the other, or had my mentality been different in these particular avenues, you would be significantly more wealthy. But from a character standpoint, which it would be the way that I would default to defining success, so many failures along the way that were driven by money that there was an easy way out. But I, for better or for worse, chose not to take it, right? Like I like life in hard mode for whatever reason. You know what I mean? So like there were a lot of situations along the way where basically an opportunity would be presented where it's like I could play 4 or 5 stake levels above what I'm currently playing, right? But it comes at being at the beck and call of a peer or a friend or somebody who was months ago my equal, but because I've now gone broke, I'm subordinate to.
Right. They have this advantage position.
Yeah, it was basically a very unhealthy power imbalance, right? That didn't belong. It wasn't in most of the. I can think of 2 very specific examples. I don't want to call anything out because, like, big picture, they were important people to my life, but they weren't better than me in poker. They weren't more knowledgeable than me in most aspects of the game or outside of. In some instances, they weren't even older than me, so it wasn't like they had more life experience or shared experience or anything like that. They were literally just in a situation where they had too much liquidity and were lazy fucks that wanted a lackey, for lack of a better term.
Right. So when things would go wrong, they'd say, I have money, you don't.
Correct.
And you didn't want to have that relationship.
I would rather be broke.
Right.
I would just say thanks, but no thanks. And I would continue to just like, try to grind up or spin up a few $100 here and there. And it slowed down my trajectory for sure. But I learned so much. I was just forced to learn so much. And again, remember, like, we didn't have anything to default to as far as getting answers go, right? It was literally just like try, fail, think for long periods of time.
The amount of swirling doubt is so much greater than it is now from the standpoint of, was I supposed to check raise? Was I supposed to bluff catch? Was I supposed to jam? Where now when you like have the machine to give you the answers and the theoretical heuristics, you can be like, okay, in theory, these hands do this. How does it actually look in practice? What does his range look like when it actually gets to river? What does my range look like if I have a range bet versus bets and checks, right? You can look and experiment with all of these hypotheses that you couldn't do without it.
I think the problem is that you can't zoom out far enough. Like, yes, all of that's true.
Yeah.
That wasn't what it was whenever we were doing it, because we were just in the hypothesis phase, and there was no real testing, right?
Yeah.
The only real testing was
trial and error,
your own lived experience. So yeah, there was a ton of swirling doubt, but we all just accepted that as default. Nobody had answers, right? We all operated off the same playing field of like, nobody has any answers. So there were plenty periods of time where this work that was being put in, whether it was through personal development or whether it was through noticing certain observations of the game. Like I still remember the first time like board textures clicked to me, where I would take a texture and I would break it down into these attributes, right? So I would group it in thirds. I would take the top 2 cards and then the bottom 2 cards, and I would group those separately, and then I would take the tone of the board, whether it be rainbow, 2-tone, monotone, and I would group that in the third bucket. And I would mentally compartmentalize logical hands that would fit around the top 2 cards, fit around the bottom 2 cards, and then fit around the suit, right? And that was how I started to think in terms of hand classes. This is a decade before that term was ever even introduced, right? This is 2010. This concept's coming to me. So you would develop these lines of thinking and then just be all in on them. And from that you would derive confidence, right? Because now you're executing a strategy of sorts, and whether it's right or wrong doesn't matter because no one else is even trying.
Well, that was your gradient of skill as to how, if you say, oh, I'm better than someone at poker,
Correct.
You would say, I have this skill proven by X amount of man hours, also proven by win-loss rate. So now it's kind of like the blind leading the blind, where you don't actually have metrics, but you use what you think is the best and then go from there.
Yeah, you generalize.
Okay.
So
What do you got, Connie?
I actually couldn't even think of something.
I'll put that on you guys.
I don't know. Let me ask these guys. Actually, reading some responses from this question on Twitter, Deeb said, if you don't get in bed, you aren't getting in enough. And then another response came from Dan Smith. Says, you just have to play every hand the way it needs to be played. Sometimes it's theoretical, and sometimes it's not. What do you think about that, Landon?
I think he's right. Absolutely right. 100%. I definitely went through the solver phase of thinking that not that bluffs need to be non-existent, but the reason theory is a nice guide is to be able to call upon it when needed and also use it as a guideline to see if the opponent or person that you're playing against has an understanding of the overall view from a strictly theoretical lens. Let's say you look at a spot where you know that out of position has a range check, and you know that in theory, but in practice you face a B75, like a big bet. Now you can deduce to yourself, okay, his ranges are going to be a lot different than what theory would be here. How do I practically make my adjustments, and how do I gain EV? Because the reason why out of position has a range check or a range bet is based off of the EV of taking the action itself.
Yeah.
So once you know that an action is taken and someone's selectively choosing against it, in theory, there is EV to be gained. And now the question is, how do you gain it? And being able to use your knowledge as a thinker, as well as someone that has the theoretical background, you can then try to take advantage of that as much as you can. At the same time, you're going to make judgments and guidelines that might be false, but that's part of poker as a whole. And that's what's going to make poker, quote unquote, never perfectly solved.
Yep.
Because when you're playing a live MTT, depending on the buy-in, if you're playing a super high roller bowl where there's less dead money and people have less EV to give away, or a smaller stakes MTT like a 160 daily, there's more reasons to deviate and capture more EV if you can. So knowing the baseline and knowing how not to give EV to theoretically solved players is the name of the game in higher stakes, because people are trying to play as close to baseline as possible to not give the other theoretically sound player any advantage.
Yep.
But when there's people that are making massive mistakes, you can then deviate to capture upon them, because theory wouldn't be the best way to do it if you start adding some other parameters.
I just think that I think the tweet Dan put out makes the most amount of sense in the sense it actually parallels to a tweet that Bono put out, which was explore your curiosity. I think those go hand in hand, because even in the realm that Landon's speaking to, where you're playing against great competition who's trying to play as close to baseline as possible, understand that we only have like a broad vision of what that is, and we can only operate off of certain metrics, right? So you can really monkey wrench the system through a lot of creativity. And I think like Adamo is a good example of this.
100%.
Like if you just start 3x potting turn, whether you're playing against elite competition or not, mistakes are going to occur in the response,
because
right?
they're just not used to it.
Right. They just aren't that studied into what 3x pots. And what happens is the equity threshold raises for hands that need to continue. But because of pot odds, it never raises so great that you just get to fold like pretty much everything, right? Okay. And what that means is that a lot of non-intuitive things start to occur. you don't just start with the hierarchy of like, okay, well, I'll continue with all of my nutted hands, and then I'll have to have a sprinkle of this. It doesn't really work that way. Like, all we know is that the nutted hands will continue, and we're not even certain how. Like, are we playing raises? Are we just pure calling here? Like, what's the simplified strategy? So we're trying to make these simplifications in real time, having never actually even looked at the baseline, right? We're basically extrapolating off of what we would do if we were facing one pot instead of three pots with a full pot size bet behind, or whatever the case may be. And what you'll find is that on the fringes, a lot of EVs being exchanged, and the same could be occurring from the person betting three pots, right? He could be exchanging a ton of EV if he's misapplying here,
Of course.
but because he's the aggressor. There's a strong likelihood that whatever EV he's giving up is being immediately returned to him through overfolds or incorrect continues.
Makes sense. So basically, Adamo is a fucking genius blowing up these solvers.
I don't know how much he is like actively pursuing specific actions, but it becomes abundantly clear over that like year where he just sunran, and sunran is maybe a little bit reductive because obviously he played fucking lights out poker. But it became abundantly clear he was just doing certain things, right? And the issue is that like it's only a secret for so long. 300%ing is a more explored line than it's ever been, and it'll continue to go that way, right? We're gonna start seeing like some 10x pot jams on flop here and there because it's viable. Even if it's only 1% of your range,
or even if it's viable or not from whatever the solve says. If you're in a spot where you assume your opponent is inelastic and has a hand that's going to call no matter what you do, why not just 10x pot jam?
Yeah,
right? The only issue is
this,
confidence.
I showed this in one of my early courses for Solve for Why. This is maybe 4 years old now, called the Exploitative Matrix, I believe.
Yep.
We were looking at the Queen 10-8 board, and I was viewing it through the lens of being the opener, being out of position, and when we were looking at, or maybe I don't recall what it was, but anyway, when we were looking at the big bet strategy, there was certain action that could be taken by the original raiser where ace queen in the defender's hand, or maybe vice versa, certain action could be taken by the defender. Like if you check ace queen and face a certain size, like ace queen was supposed to start pure folding.
Yeah.
And it just never happens. Like that hand is just never folding. And like Jack 10 would be like a pure continue in the same node, right? But that hand is folding. So like that's what I'm saying when we're talking about like this non-intuitive stuff, right? Like sure, you're probably never supposed to like 5x pot jam on Queen 10-8 in a single raise pot or whatever. But if you know that like hands on the threshold that are supposed to maybe shift into a pure fold or like fold the vast majority of the time, and then hands that are supposed to call the vast majority of the time or maybe always do the inverse of each other, you suddenly are stumbling upon a viable exploit.
Right. And that's where all the money is made when it comes to playing poker as a whole. Because if everybody was playing perfect machine poker, nobody wins over a long enough sample.
For sure.
So if you're playing and using the pure solve, where you're saying, okay, I know that I can't do this action because it loses EV, but in practice, you know that it actually gains EV based off of the way that X person plays, then you start winning. But the confidence is necessary to make these decisions and deviations, because now you're swinging hard. Like if you start folding a hand that's supposed to pure bluff catch and you say, this guy never has a bluff, and then you fold and then they show you a bluff. Now you just get absolutely wrecked. And that's why pot odds are important also when it comes to making decisions, because now you can have a metric as to how important your decision is in that moment. Because if there's 1,000 big blinds in the pot and somebody bets one big blind, it doesn't matter your confidence on bluff, not bluff when you're getting such sick odds. Conversely, when there's 5 big blinds in the pot and someone jams for 5,000, now you have to be a lot more correct in your decisions and analysis based off of the percentage of the pot that you're being laid.
For sure. So I want to ask you guys in one sentence, a nice quick, nice, beautiful, quick sentence, what advice you would give to somebody early in their career coming up. But before that, our boy Jason Burt's got some advice for you. Spoke with Landon for a bit yesterday during the break at Venetian. Very fine young man. Delightful conversation. Busted 2 hands after the talk. His advice? Don't talk to Landon.
I also busted 1 hand after we had that talk, so I guess I shouldn't talk to you either. Yeah.
So going around the room, just give a nice little 1-sentence advice to somebody up and coming in the game. Lamanna, start us off, baby.
I would just go to solveforwhy.io and sign up to Solve for Why TV for the all-access pass.
He's getting so good at this. Going around. What you got for us, Burke?
Quit.
We're running a training zone here. God damn it. Oh,
This can't be a thing.
Get a fucking job.
This can't be a thing.
Get a fucking job. That's the best advice
And then
he's
once you
ever
have
fucking.
that job, you have supplemental income to play poker, and then you can get better by
That's
going
right.
to Solve for Why.
That I'll agree with. Yeah, Joe Buckalaw, man, he gave the best advice
He
all the
did.
time. Get a fucking job.
Joe,
This
I
guy
already have
lives
a
in
job. Get a fucking job.
Get another fucking job. This guy lives in a fucking tree.
Wish you guys could have met this guy.
They used to.
He was
imagine this. Imagine back in the day, they called Lamanna Flop-O-Matic because he c-bet every board, and they were so bad at poker they legitimately believed that like he made a pair.
just like
every time.
always hit the board. Yeah,
This
they call me
fucking kid, he just always
Flop-O-Matic.
fucking Brian Flop-O-Matic over there always fucking has it. No, I mean,
Fun times.
in all seriousness, I don't think advice is worth a pint of piss. And I'm saying that in the sense of,
Your advice is don't take advice.
yeah, because like anybody who is giving you solicited or unsolicited advice is probably doing it in a tips or tricks kind of way. And that's just not the game, man. Like poker advice and life advice are going to be very synonymous, and you should be very, very, very critical of who you take advice from for either realm.
So you're basically saying do your own work. In a sense, kind of like
Yeah,
dig
but
deeper. Advice sucks.
yeah, yes.
Guapo.
I'd have to say bankroll management. Make sure your life roll is correct and your bankroll playing. I'd venture to say that people who are playing full time for a living, maybe 20% of people have their shit together.
Okay, makes sense. Oh, holy crap.
Earthquake!
Sorry. I forgot I have a 2:15 meeting.
This guy.
Fucking Berkey.
before
So
we
I
end the
guess we're gonna
pod,
wrap this up.
Yeah, my advice would be to just find an environment, have people to just talk some strategy with, find people you trust, and then worst comes to worst, if poker doesn't work, you have friends. So
There you go.
All right.
Everybody has friends.
Everyone
they
has
don't.
friends. Fucking Landon. All
No, they
right. Well, on that note,
Well, Scout fucked your shot good.
what happened?
She fucked your shot.
Oh,
You'll be all
Scout!
right. You're still in the frame.
how you doing that to me, baby? Anyway, go on over to WPT Global. Give them a download. They're giving away seats. It's honestly Christmas. They're sending over 150 people.
Scout is very excited about WPT Global.
Scout is not
Holy
having.
moly.
They're sending over 150 people to the WPT Championship with 12K packages. You got to get in there to win it. What can I say?
Scout's in there.
Download WPT Global now. You guys have anything to end this episode off on?
That's it.
That's it? Scout said, fuck this shit.
That's it.
All right, Scout's done with our bullshit. On that note, like, subscribe, send us some love in the comments.
I guess we need a scout emote.
We do need a Scout emote
Yep.
for when she does this shit.
Perfect.
All right, on that note, we're out.
Peace.
Later.